to You Can't Make This Shit Up. David Washington, Kellen Clark, we are your hosts today, your political innovators in Central Florida. But today's story isn't about Central Florida. It's about my OG home state of Idaho.
Indeed. It seems that Ohio, or
What that? What?
wait, not Ohio. See, these red states are just sticking in my
Whoa,
mind.
whoa,
Idaho,
whoa, David,
Idaho.
that's offensive.
My apologies, Idaho. My apologies, our listeners and viewers. It seems that Idaho has no clue how to support their abortion ban. They have yet to come up with a support system for pregnancies and births. This leaves the people of Idaho questioning what side of the debate their government is on. Is Idaho in the Stone Ages or just lost in policy? Let's go. What say you?
Ooh, well, you got to understand that Idaho, just like every other state, has many different communities, but it's also a community. It's a chain of small towns, essentially,
Mhm.
which does change matters for abortion policy quite a lot. You know, the towns I'm from, you know, the Buell and Twin Falls area. I mean, everybody knows at least half of the entire population by their self. So that definitely affects how you do policy compared to a place like here where there's so many people you can't possibly support them all. There is much more room for citizens. But you're absolutely right, when there are a lot of Idahoans who are very much questioning the policy, because they're asking, if we're not, what's the alternative, what's the way out, because it seems from a lot of people that I've spoken with from there that they're just like trying to like prevent all methods of birth control, not all methods, but very much cut back on it. It's not a priority at all.
Idaho is an outlier in all this because it seems like the conservatives there want to save the unborn, but when they're actually alive, they abandon them. They abandon systems of care that will help their families and also the children thrive in society. And again, even states like Florida and Texas, with their extreme abortion bans, have systems in place to support families who need that extra level of support to make sure that they're surviving in society. But Idaho, for some reason or another,
Uh, I
no funding, no
I
Medicare.
I am disappointed that they stripped back the systems what they had before. Definitely helped support the chain of policy better. Kind of helped, fill the gap that many potential people who didn't like the policy could fill. Now they say, oh well, there's support systems and whatnot, and the small town dichotomy changes every aspect of policy. There is no doubting that.
Mhm.
You can't look at it in the entire same way. Every single member of the community is more individually important in a sort of weird way because there's fewer of them. Each individual tends to be more well known. Each individual tends to have a on paper bigger role. So that it is a little disappointing to me that they didn't take the support systems, which would be I think the most logical route to go. Grow the community and support them. So I'm a
Well,
little disappointed.
I know, and I get your disappointment. I'm right there with you. When grants are available to support childcare, to support early childhood education, to support child health care, and Idaho leaves it on the table. And even in states that enacted new abortion restrictions have these systems in place to some extent or another.
Yeah,
And
for
it's just for a party, the Republican Party or a conservatives to embrace this pro family approach, but leave a safety net absent for our most vulnerable um, population in America. It just make sense.
yeah, there's a lot of a lot of funk that happens with abortion policies in many different states, Idaho being one of them. But they're certainly not the only one. If there's one thing that I can bash more than anything else, it was their out of state abortion policy. It was better than what Texas did because if you remember back, it was all over the news. The Texas bounty hunter laws that said that, citizens of Texas who have their permanent residence in Texas, should they receive abortion in a different state, can still be tried by Texas law.
Right.
It's
Vigilante
it's
law.
now it's wrapped up in court, and I doubt it's gonna make it out of there because from a federalism perspective, the entire purpose of state laws is that they stay within a state's borders, not
Right.
go outside. So that one, but Idaho had a similar thing, except instead of punishing the person who got the abortion, it punishes they who help a young person get an abortion. So if a parent was to lend them a car, the parents could be on the hook. If a grandparent got him a plane ticket, the grandparent could be on the hook. Close family friend, whoever it has to be, could be on the hook. And it the way it comes across sometimes is pandering, for
Sure.
the lack of a better term. It seems like there is some kind of pressure, or at least some kind of perceived pressure, to take as hardline a stance as possible on issues like these to appeal their very religious population, because Idaho is a very religious population, way more than here. That's another thing you also have to keep in mind.
Well, speaking of policy and particular stances, Blaine Concetti, if I hope I pronounced the name correctly, Cassetti, the president of the Idaho Family Policy Center, stated that they're not too concerned for the lack of services and funding set aside by the Idaho legislature for these support services because, in their opinion, it's families, friends, and religious organizations, churches that are supposed to support families and not the government.
And keep in mind, Idaho won't need as much funding as other states. They, in large states, your New Yorks, your Californias, your Floridas, there is a lot of people. There are a lot more children that are going to be born every year. There's going to be a lot more difficulties in ensuring that everybody has equal opportunity. That is much harder to do in a larger scale state. But in one like Idaho, where there's just not that many people to begin with,
Mhm.
you don't need this as much funding. And then of course, they do mention how it is a very overwhelmingly religious population compared to most states, and for many that can justify it because they don't want to morally go along with something like abortion, and they feel that they're supported by their church.
And this is what Kanzadi said. They said that the Bible is clear. So quote, the Bible is clear in the history of Christendom broadly is clear that it's the church's responsibility to meet the needs of the poor and to ensure the people have the services they need to live flourishing lives. That is your Idaho Family Policy Center.
And that's a very common policy in
Mhm.
Idaho. When the Supreme Court decided to turn the issue of abortion back to states, what they turned over was the ability for states to have drastically different policy, to suit whatever needs and wants they have. And I think that given that that's what we're operating under, that it's fine that Idaho wants to experiment. Do I personally think it's the best route? No.
Okay.
Hell no.
And
But
that's
I
what I
but
was
I
going
but
to
I
ask you
but I
where
also but I
this is
also
going.
but I also do respect that Idaho is in a unique position, along with a couple other small states, in a unique position where they don't need as much funding. They're not going to have as many issues with this stuff.
Not as much, but
It's still
is
there.
anything available? Is there support available?
Yeah, but it's not in the governmental sense. Not in the government. Not
Uh,
anymore in the government. Was there?
would there be if I go to a charity or a church in Idaho and I don't have the means to raise my child and I go there seeking assistance, would there be a litmus test? Would there be a requirement that I go to Bible study? Is there a requirement that I be baptized? Would there be a requirement that I take some courses
I'm sure.
or things like
I'm
that?
sure that would strictly depend on what church it is. You know, churches are independent entities for each other. You know, no two churches are the same.
So there'll be qualifiers before
Maybe,
receiving assistance.
maybe some will, some won't. I what I would
Sometimes.
what I would suspect from what I've observed would be that members of the church,
Mhm.
you know, if you're a member of the church who shows up on at least a semi-regular basis, semi-regular,
And if I'm not,
or just a like-minded Christian,
if I'm not a like-minded Christian or a member of that particular church or
well, that
never contributed to that charity, will I
it
be?
it does make it more challenging. It does, and it does fringe on Idaho's skewed population. It really does.
Mhm.
You know, if Idaho were to have a population explosion, this could not hold up. Absolutely could not hold up. It is perhaps overly reliant on religious entities. There is always a risk with leaving things to completely to individuals. You know, it's going to
And
be
their
less.
biases and their
Yes, and their
biases
biases. You know, there's more room for human error. However,
and bias. Call it what it is.
I think that bias falls under human error. I think human error. I see human error as the broad umbrella, bias being a part of it. It's a
Okay.
human error of types. You know, we can't get over our biases. You know,
I think we can. I think we can.
like your bias against abortion policies. Just
I'm biased
joking.
against certain abortion
No,
policies.
and
A 15-week ban, a 6-week ban, and I'm going to push back against myself because in earlier shows I was okay with a 15-week ban, but I'm changing that again
you know,
back to a 22, 23, 25-week
uh, yeah,
prohibition after
yeah,
that time
yeah.
frame.
And absolutely, views will always be evolving, and I'm sure after enough time in this policy, the citizens of Idaho will know whether or not they like it, whether or not it is enough. You know, like with every single policy under the sun, you just kind of have to sit back and see how it turns out. I suspect that there will be challenges, not as bad as say a high population state would experience, but there will be challenges. There is no doubt about that. There will be a section of the population that will push back against it. I'm not sure if that will be the majority that will push back against all these policies, but I'm guessing a lot of people will be hindered by them
And
nonetheless.
some of the pushback is occurring because uh, these policies are contributing to 10 to 15 deaths per year in Idaho because there's not this availability to reproductive health care for women and also the lack of a safety net.
Yeah, safety nets are important, and what I suspect is that some set of elections down the line, things are going to change. They're probably gonna dial back this policy, put a safety net back in eventually. I have no doubt that that's going to be the case. Um,
That's also all life. The life of the mother is just
yeah,
as important.
absolutely, and I think the decision is a little pandery. I think that a lot of Idaho's abortion um, decisions recently have been on the more ostentatious side. It's good for media attention, like we saw when they put in the travel punishment, the travel fine,
Sure.
and I'm guessing it's very much a political move as much as it is anything else.
Kelly, your final thought here. Do you think you'll see policies like this, the pushback against having the safety net, showing up in other states?
I don't think it will. I don't think we'll realistically see it in many other states. If we do, it would be like a couple small ones. But as a whole, no, I don't suspect we'll see that. I think there are a lot of states that need to improve their safety nets because a lot of them are very limited in capacity compared to how many more people are going in these days. But no, I don't think that what happens in Idaho here is some kind of precedent for the entire country. I think when we look back on it years from now, we'll look back on it as more of an experiment, and we'll see, how that measures out. Will this be a drastic, a drastic difficulty, or will it be a small hindrance? We don't really know yet, and we can't know. But I don't think it will apply to other states, and I don't think that, bigger states have to fear what little Idaho is doing,
Right.
because they're their own thing.
Right.
It's federalism.
Again, we're seeing reproductive rights slowly eroding around the peripheral here. America's got quite a challenge ahead. And Iowa,
What?
I'm not done. I'm coming for you. It's not your
The
time
state
this
is called
time.
the state is called
I know,
Idaho,
I know,
not
I know,
Iowa.
I'm talking to Iowa. I'm talking to Iowa this one.
Phew.
Coming for you. It's not your turn. This is Idaho's turn. Iowa, you're next. Okay. This is you can't make this shit up.
Like, comment, subscribe, share, and have a great day.